mentioned once in 2012 that Diddy was a good friend of yours back then. He has since found himself in some very serious legal trouble.
No, that's true.
Would you ever consider pardoning him?
I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him in years. He used to really like me a lot. I could do other things, and I'm sure he'd like me, and I'm sure other people would like me, but it wouldn't be as good for our country. As we said, our country's doing really well. I love Diddy. You know, he's a good friend of mine. He's a good guy. Is he a good guy?
I don't want to answer that question.
Oh, wow. I think he's a good guy. I'm going to stick up.
Hey everyone, the prosecution and defense have rested their case, but Diddy seems a little too calm about the whole situation. Word on the street is that he is already arranging for a presidential pardon, which is why he has been extra composed, as the feds are closing in. The specifics of how he accomplished this crazy work. You see, Diddy has been going low, making calls, and using his contacts in DC while everyone else has been enmeshed in the raids and lawsuits. A court insider is now disclosing his exact strategy for escaping this situation. The crazy thing is that it has nothing to do with establishing his innocence. No, this has to do with power, favors, and behind-the-scenes agreements. So how did he turn this whole thing around to his benefit? Who is assisting him in entering that pardon? Then, let's get started. You see, everyone believed Diddy was in a tight spot with the government. It appeared to be a clear-cut case, based on the raids, the evidence, and the lawsuits. When did they begin to subtly drop some of these charges? Then. Yes, a lot of people were taken aback by that. The problem is that the federal government doesn't just backtrack without a good reason. And this whole situation is much deeper than people realize, according to a court insider. There are rumors that Diddy has been playing chess in the background. And why are these costs actually going away? All of this is part of a plan to secure a presidential pardon, of course, without drawing attention to it. And believe me, it will all make more sense once you hear the specifics of how this deal supposedly transpired. However, we must first discuss the feds dismissing these accusations since, as you are all aware, this created a great deal of controversy, since they disclosed that they were abandoning them. The music entrepreneur was allegedly implicated in attempted arson and kidnapping. Prosecutors reportedly stated in a letter to U.S. District Judge Aaron Subramanian that they would no longer pursue hypotheses put up during the high-profile trial. For background, however, the Kid Cudi case is connected to the arson allegations. Remember when Diddy allegedly blew up Kid Cudi's car after learning of Kid Cudi's brief liaison with Cassie? The claims of kidnapping, however, relate to Cassie, who was supposedly detained in the London hotel, and Diddy's former assistant Capricorn, who was brought to a building and subjected to a lie detector test to ascertain whether or not she had stolen Diddy's valuables. As you are already aware, Kid Cudi, Cassie, and Capricorn all exposed Diddy throughout the trial. The testimony was outrageous. The evidence was stacked. And everyone believed that the federal government had this situation under control. However, they suddenly pulled a prank by telling the judge that the charges would be dropped. And, here's the thing, they were meant to be winding things up, but they did it just before closing arguments. Since then, the entire internet has been ignoring the situation and speculating about what's actually happening behind the scenes. But it gets even more shady. So wait a minute. Prosecutors changed the narrative once the second backlash struck, claiming that they were only simplifying the case and not abandoning charges. Additionally, prosecutors are only dismissing some aspects of the multiple sex trafficking allegations, specifically aiding and abetting, according to TMZ. Yes, simplifying, or creating the ideal pretext to get away with the presidential pardon. Let me now demonstrate the true depth of this. You see, during the trial, a former federal prosecutor who has been closely involved in this case made the mistake of letting it slip that the government was cleaning things up. They are requesting that the jury no longer consider those acts, in order to prevent them from becoming sidetracked by this lack of evidence, he said. The prosecution is admitting they didn't provide enough evidence, so it's a partial win for the defense. The administration is making an attempt to clean things up. Are they merely tidying up, though? Or are they merely devising a scheme to rescue Diddy from this predicament? Because consider this, if you were a member of the jury and you were aware that they were dismissing cases due to insufficient evidence, I'm not sure, but it raises a legitimate doubt. A court insider claims that the true strategy being discussed behind closed doors is to grant Diddy a complete presidential pardon. However, let's not pretend that this is all Brett Knooper. Example, Diddy has been around politicians for as long as we can remember. So his political ties are far deeper than most people understand. Guess who is one of his closest political allies, by the way? Donald Trump. That's who. He remained quiet when it didn't help him, but let's not pretend that this talk of a presidential pardon was unheard of. Since Trump and Diddy have a long history together. The time before Bad Boy Records is long gone. Well before the controversies, they were running in the same gaudy circles back when Diddy was still going by Puff Daddy. I'm going to show you a video where Trump claims that he will always defend Diddy, no matter what, which further demonstrates their close friendship. Look at it.
Absolutely.
I love Diddy. You know, he's a good friend of mine. He's a good guy.
He expects.
Is he a good guy?
I don't want to answer that
Oh,
question.
wow.
I
I
don't
think
know.
he's a good guy. I'm going to stick up for him.
The fact that President Trump didn't shut down Diddy's legal problem when he was questioned about it in a recent interview, however, is what truly caused fans to side-eye the entire affair. Rather, he subtly suggested that a pardon would be possible. Yes, everyone. He did say that. Check out the video for yourself.
You mentioned once in 2012 that Diddy was a good friend of yours back then. He has since found himself in some very serious legal trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Would you ever consider pardoning him?
I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him in years. He used to really like me a lot. I could do other things, and I'm sure he'd like me, and I'm sure other people would like me, but it wouldn't be as good for our country. As we said, our country's doing really well.
You once stated in 2012 that you were good friends with Diddy at the time. Since then, he has been involved in several quite significant legal issues. Trump, that's accurate. Interviewer, do you think you'd ever forgive him? Trump, I haven't seen him, I guess. It's been years since I chatted with him. He used to like me a lot, I guess, but I'm sure he'd like me, and I could do other things. I have no doubt that I would be liked by others. However, it wouldn't benefit our nation as much. As we already stated, our nation is doing quite well. If you think that's crazy, however, rumors have it that Diddy's legal staff has been spending extra hours behind the scenes, doing things like discreet meetings, large-scale favors, and possibly even some political payments. Allegedly, they are doing all in their power to ensure that the pardon is granted without any questions. And if you believe that Diddy's predicament can't get much more dodgy, then hold on tight, because things are beginning to make sense. An insider claims that the current so-called pardon spree is a cover. What about the actual play? Diddy, you see, according to the insider, the president is aware that a complete pardon of Diddy would cause a rout on the internet. In order to, warm things up, check the temperature a little bit, they are instead introducing other famous people's pardons first. You can all agree that the timing is incredibly odd. The president has already pardoned reality stars Todd and Julie Chrisley for their convictions for fraud and tax evasion, as well as NBA YoungBoy for his weapons charges in the last few weeks. Not to mention the general pardon for the rioters on January 6th. A complete setup, indeed. According to the insider, Diddy is the cause of it all. Diddy appears to be the next in line for the pardons that have been granted to everyone. And believe me, it's going to explode up in your face. Let me explain the depth of this. Rumor has it that this pardon isn't really free. An insider claims that a shady little transaction is taking place behind the scenes. Diddy was supposedly offered a bargain by the feds. If you spy on other powerful individuals, we'll take care of your problems. As you are already aware, there has been a lot of talk lately about Tyler Perry. The lawsuit was first dismissed. Then rumors began to circulate that several men were preparing to level even more accusations. According to this insider, Diddy allegedly gave Tyler to the FBI in order to protect himself. Thus it wasn't random, to protect himself. And simply take a look at the pattern if you don't think Diddy is striking deals. Sweetie. When Cassie filed that complaint, exposing him for the same kind of dubious activity that Tyler Perry's accuser, Derek Dixon, is currently discussing, his whole legal situation blew up. According to insiders, Diddy snitched to save himself, which is why the streets have been suggesting Tyler is next in line. With Tyler, though, it hasn't stopped. According to rumors, Diddy has been giving information about other prominent figures, including Oprah, Gayle, King, Ellen, and even political figures. As part of his agreement with the federal government, here's the real kicker, though, according to the insider, Diddy had a larger goal in mind, a full-fledged presidential pardon, rather just dropping charges. How? Too. He supposedly has some incriminating information about Trump, and he isn't hesitant to use it. We don't know precisely what sort of dirt Diddy is sitting on, or even whether he has any supporting documentation, but the streets, they claim that this tea is authentic. Additionally, it is purportedly connected to Epstein's list, the name that shakes Hollywood. Yes, everyone, things are going to become crazy. because earlier this month, Elon practically outed Trump by saying that he was on Epstein's notorious list, which captivated the entire internet, the one that has been absent for years. You know, Elon didn't mince words either. Time to drop the really big bomb, he tweeted bluntly. The Epstein files include Donald Trump. The true reason they haven't been released to the public is this. Enjoy your day, President Trump. Naturally, a few hours later, he erased the tweet he had sent. However, remember that the internet never forgets. Trump, of course, refuted these claims, stating, "That's called old news. That has long been known. People have been discussing that for years. Even Epstein's attorney denied any involvement on my part. The information is outdated. For years and years, people have been discussing this. As you are aware, Epstein and I did not get along for at least 18 years prior to his passing. I didn't get along with him at all," the insider claims. That Diddy's dirt is based on Trump's purported relationship with Epstein, which he intended to use to negotiate a settlement with the federal government and surrender a significant amount of his wealth. But now that there are rumors that a presidential pardon is imminent, let's just say that he doesn't have to worry about that anymore. Baby. You can be sure that everyone he has snitched on will be extremely pleased with that. The true question today is, was this always a part of Diddy's escape strategy? Snitch on the appropriate individuals, to the feds, slide some dirt, and take advantage of the one thing that could solve all of his issues, a pardon from the president. Well, for a millisecond, let's keep it simple. That pardon may already be set in stone, given how shady this entire situation is unfolding. In fact, we've witnessed Diddy making the judge laugh in court in other situations. However, please share your thoughts with me on this. Does Diddy actually own any dirt that may purchase his freedom? Or is he simply being used as a pawn by the government to hide something more significant? Leave a comment below with your opinions, and keep watching because the next video. Yes, the receipts will be made public. More sloppy than this. Press play now.